I'm about to share everything you need to know to retire quickly. Early retirement isn't just a dream. It's a reality that you can achieve sooner than you think. Today, I'll walk you through exactly what it takes to get there. You don't have to do it all, but the more you can check off, the faster you'll be sat on the beach, soaking up the sun, sipping cocktails. As always, it's your favourite Scotsman here again. Traditionally, we're told to retire at 65 because, well, that's what society expects. Most people don't question it. They just go along with a plan. But why 65? Why follow that rule? This mindset is holding you back. It often means missing out on the freedom and flexibility you could be enjoying right now. Life's too short to wait until some arbitrary age set by society to start living the life you truly want, so let's get stuck right in to tip number 1, the ground zero basics. I'm going to tell you how to retire quick, but I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy. It's going to need some sacrifice on your part. You can't have it all and still retire quickly. The basics start by getting a full handle on your expenses. Break it down into 2 pots. Pot number 1 is your non-discretionary expenses. This is the stuff that you need to survive. Cutting back from this section is pretty much non-negotiable. Think of things like your mortgage, your gas bill, your hydro bill and food. Pot number 2, this is your discretionary expenses. These are the nice to haves, but not necessary for survival. If you want to retire quickly, then this pot needs to be reviewed regularly. What can you cut back on? What did you buy that wasn't really needed? You don't need to deprive yourself. At the end of the day, life is still for living, but get frugal where you can. Once you have a handle on your expenses, the next step is the ground zero basics part 2. You must have a plan. You need to know what you're aiming for and how you can get your money working for you in the best possible way. How much are you putting into your RRSP? How much into a TFSA? What about a spousal RRSP? If you have a pension, what are the impacts of early retirement? What about CPP and OAS? And make sure you're taking full advantage of all the benefits and matching programs offered by your employer. So, now that you've got the ground zero basics in place, let's start looking at some real needle movers. The first thing is debt. Debt can be a serious roadblock to retiring quickly, so keeping it to a minimum is absolutely crucial. If you do have debt, make sure it's good debt, like a mortgage that's manageable. But I must point out, be careful when it comes to mortgage debt. Buying too big a house can be a killer when it comes to early retirement. It eats up a huge chunk of your income that could be better spent elsewhere. And of course, it goes without saying, high interest debt is an absolute no-go. The key is keeping all your debt payments as low as possible so you're not tied down and can channel more of your money towards hitting that retirement goal sooner, which ties us in nicely into tip number 4. If you're going to retire early, you must maximise your income while you're working as much as possible. Push for that promotion and the extra dollars that come with it. If you don't get it, look elsewhere. Company loyalty is not what it used to be. There are a number of people making serious cash by simply jumping around from company to company and looking for better paid positions. If you have a skill, make sure you sell yourself accordingly. Other options to maximise your income could be buying a rental property. Have someone else pay the mortgage for you. Just be careful though. Rental properties are not all sunshine and rainbows with free cash flow coming in every month and no issues at all. There are some absolute horror stories out there with properties being wrecked by tenants. We've also seen such a massive run up in the value of properties here in Canada over the past 20 to 30 years that current values coupled with higher interest rates make it very hard to be cash flow positive on a monthly basis. If real estate isn't your thing, consider other ways to diversify your income, whether that's through side gigs, freelancing, or investing in income-generating assets. The more you can bring in now, the faster you can hit that early retirement goal. Now, if bringing in more isn't an option, don't fret. The next tip for retiring quick is a big one. Out of everything, it is probably the one that moves the needle the most. Before we dive into that though, if you haven't yet booked your retirement strategy call with me, then click on the link in the pinned comments below to do so today. You won't regret it. Back to it. And this next one isn't for everyone. But if you've ever fancied living somewhere other than Canada, then geo-arbitrage is a real thing that could have you retiring way faster than you ever anticipated. Geo-arbitrage is basically just a fancy way of saying moving to another country with a lower cost of living. Think about it. Say you need $7,000 a month to live here in Canada. If you could go somewhere where you only need $3,000 or $4,000 a month, then you're going to be able to retire years or possibly even decades before you could in Canada. Have you ever thought about retirement in Central America, Europe, or even far-flung places like Thailand? Many can do it comfortably on CPP and OAS, so even if you've got a modest amount in savings over and above that, you could be living a pretty comfortable life. I get it though, it's not for everybody, and it's not quite as simple as just packing your bags and leaving. You have to think about the longevity of such a move, healthcare, and being so far away from family and friends. If you want to stay closer to home, what I'm going to show you next might float your boat. Have you ever considered how small tweaks to your retirement plan might help bridge the gap? Let's look at an example. We have Tom and Amy Brown, both currently 58 years old, tired and worn out from working long hours for too long. They currently make $220,000 a year combined, have 1.1 million in savings and have a retirement income goal of $96,000 a year. We have used a return assumption of 5%, an inflation rate of 2% and assumed they both get 90% of the maximum CPP. If we assume that they retire at the end of this year based on their income goal, they would exhaust their retirement savings in the year in which they turn 73. It sounds like they are a million years away from retirement, doesn't it? Well, not so fast. Tom and Amy have gone away and done some adjusting to their expectations and cut back on a few expenses that were nice to have, but they could live without. They have now come back and said they could get by on about $84,000 a year and still be relatively comfortable. We talk more about what that looks like and what they want to do. They want to do some travel in those early years. Expenses will be likely higher, so we introduce a bit of a phased approach to spending. From now until age 75, we assume that they will spend $84,000 a year. We then run the numbers to see what will be possible from age 76 onwards, and it turns out to be just under $64,000 a year to age 95 and just over $67,000 a year to age 90. That might be something some of you are sitting there thinking, well, that wouldn't be so bad. But Tom and Amy weren't comfortable with such a big drop-off. They wanted a more level retirement income for security later on in life. So we talked about what else they could do, and I asked if they had ever considered part-time work. Both of them thought it could be an option to reduce hours at work. So we ran the numbers again. What if they only worked 2 days a week and collected 40% of their current salaries from now until age 65? We don't even need to take a phased approach. This part-time income more than makes up the shortfall and gives them a level $88,845 a year all the way to age 95. If we take their life expectancy down to age 90, this gives them a level $92,385 a year, almost back to their initial target of $96,000 a year. This is all to say that working like a dog until age 65 doesn't have to be the way. Fewer hours and less stress is a viable option. Of course, not all employers are going to be down pat with a reduction in work hours. If part-time work isn't an option, then what about downsizing? Let's look at Tom and Amy again. Like many other homeowners in Canada, they're sitting on a pretty pile of home equity. Sticking with their $96,000 a year after tax income goal, you remember that the funds exhausted age 73. Well, if they were to downsize and add a little over $500,000 to their investment portfolio this year, they could retire with $96,000 of income all the way to age 95. Not a bad option if it means retiring next year instead of slogging all the way to 65. Choices have to be made, but if there's one thing you can take from this video, then it's you have to be flexible. How flexible can you be with your income expectations? Can you adjust your portfolio withdrawals in a down market? Or do you have the ability to pack your bags and go live somewhere else with a lower cost of living? Don't forget to book your retirement strategy call if you haven't yet done so. And do you want to know what the average retiree income looks like? Watch this next video I have lined up for you to find out.